and Woodrina Layton. And the Laytons are here to talk about a blessed affair. And I know that sounds very contradictory to talk about a blessed affair. But we're going to talk about how probably it actually saved their marriage, that actual affair. But also I want to talk to the people who are making a decision, and I like to call it the fight or the flight situation in their relationship. Some people have already given up because it's not worth the fight. But find out if your relationship is really worth the fight. And if you all kind of heard the song that was playing before this, it was Kevin LeVar, and it's about a heart that forgives. And the reason I thought it was a great intro into tonight, what we're talking about, it's because you really have to have a heart to forgive in your relationship about everything. Everything. We are talking tonight, of course, about affairs, but there are things, according to whatever your cross, according to whatever your boundary is in your relationship, that might be a greater sin. Because some people don't, that's not, they have that open relationship. They're fine. They're comfortable with that piece of it. But it's other things that cause them to have that disconnect. So I want you all to find that place where you can have that heart that forgive. Forgive like God forgive you, because if he didn't forgive us, he would curse us and die every day for the things that we do that break his heart. So in our relationships, we get so caught up in our feelings and in our flesh that we can't get to the spiritual person that will allow us to be free. And of course, I got a scripture for you all tonight, and I went from James 1:15, and I was thinking about temptation, because it's all about temptation. Affairs is about drifting us somewhere else. And it says, James 1:15, then the desire was conceived. It gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death. And so it's the birth of the sin. We give an idea, so it's like a seed we plant in there. It starts growing, and when that sin is birthed, it becomes death. And we think about death, we always think about a physical death. It could be a spiritual death, it could be communication death, it could be trust death, it could be intimacy death, it could be financial death. So it's a lot of different type of deaths that are brought about by those types of relationships when you allow temptation to take over in your relationship. So for this month, we just got off the Labor Day wonderful weekend when you get a break. And the theme actually for this month of September is your labor in vain. Because a lot of times we feel like the work that we're putting in our relationships, the work we're putting in at work, whatever it is, we're not reaping the reward that we want to reap out of it. And a lot of times, because we can't make people do what we want to do. Because they grown too. And then we can't even usually make our children do what we want to do because they're human. They're not puppets. Because if God could make us do what we wanted us to do, you know, we'd all be good robots, good little Christians, and we would never sin. So the thing is, we have to go back and look and see if our labor is in vain. And that's why this was a great topic for me to kick off this month about affairs. Because a lot of times we feel like when something is not perfect in our relationship, we give up doing the work. And I really want people to realize a marriage, any type of relationship you in, it requires some type of work. And that person is going to disappoint you. That person is going to break your heart at different times. But first, you got to be able to forgive. As that Kevin LeVar song says, you got to be able to forgive. But then after you go through that forgiveness component, how do you put all those pieces back together to allow it not to cause death, to breathe life back into those individual situations? So y'all know before we jump into the interview, I'm going to woo y'all with a little music first to get to the lyrical setup. But I want you all to think in your mind, when you all hear the term affairs, you talk about forgiveness. Everybody like to use the word cheating. People like to emphasize the flesh and their feelings, how they get involved in these relationships. But I want you to hear these two songs that are coming up. And it's by Breeze Hammer featuring Samantha Scratchin, I believe. So if she hear me, I'm sorry for messing up your name. And it's I Humble Myself. And I picked that song because a lot of times in our relationship, we don't have humility. As the word says, pride becomes before the fall. If we were humble in a lot of situations and non-judgmental and got in a place where it wasn't, how I say, a big I and a little you, and it's only one of us, and we get to that point where we could humble ourselves, our relationship could be at a whole different level. So understand the words that are in this song are talking about humbling ourselves to God. But when we humble ourselves to God, we're at a place that we can be humble to all people. We don't have to be the big I. And that's where we need to put ourselves in all of our relationships, learning how to be just a we.
Right.
Us in that combination. Then we're going to go into Anthony Hamilton. And I know he is not a gospel singer, but this song talks directly to affairs. This song is called Pray For Me. I don't know if you all have ever heard that song, but I actually fell in love with this song a long time ago. I actually used it in a presentation before. And if you all listen to the words of Pray For Me, you would have thought it was a gospel song.
Right.
Because in this song, it talks about the temptation, it talks about the choices, it talks about the decisions, and it talks about choosing wrong. And it's talking about pray for me. And the thing is, a lot of times we forget to pray for each other. And we forget to pray for our relationships. We just take it for granted that everything is gonna work out.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who need prayer to get through an affair, because it can be done, it can be gotten through, it can be gotten over. But people need to pray. Don't be judgmental. Don't put their beliefs on people. So that is one of the reasons why I love this Anthony Hamilton song. So listen to this song, Pray For Me. So we got I humble myself and pray for me, and then we are going to jump into the deep conversation about affairs and how you really can survive. And I say you can survive anything and begin to thrive again only if you choose to fight versus flight.
Right.
So let's hear our songs for the evening, and then y'all gonna hear the voices of the powerful Laytons.